call the meeting to order. Good morning and welcome to the September 16th, 2025 special City Council meeting. I will ask everyone to please rise for the Canadian National Anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God, keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
You can be seated. We acknowledge that we are on traditional lands of Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta and Manitoba, and original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory, as well as settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. Some members of City Council and City Administration may be attending the meeting today through video conferencing. I would like to remind those who are attending through video conferencing of the following. Please ensure that your video camera and microphone are turned off, and when speaking, remember to unmute your microphone and enable your video camera. Some delegations may be attending the meeting today by teleconference to address City Council on various items on the agenda. Can I have someone move a motion to approve the agenda at the call of the chair with an adjustment to add the registered list of delegations? Councillor Flores, and a seconder. Councillor Siklees. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. I'm going to take a sip before I do this spiel again. So I'll take this opportunity to provide a high-level overview of how the meeting will proceed today, as similar to the other preliminary budget meetings we've had. So administration will give a presentation on item CM 25-15 2026-2027 preliminary service forecast, community building services. Once the presentation is complete, the registered list of delegations will address City Council, and members will be permitted to ask the delegations any question they may have for them. Council will then move the report to the floor, and council members will be permitted their 5-minute speaking time to debate and ask questions of administration respecting the presentation and related report. The matter on the meeting agenda today is an informational report providing council with the current budget service level forecasting information. I would like to remind members of council that the deliberations today provide members of council with the opportunity to ask administration questions and put forward a referral motion for additional information only in the event administration indicate they are unable to provide a response to a question posed to them at the meeting today, and that any amendments members may wish to bring forward in relation to the 2026 budget deliberations be brought forward in December during the consideration of the proposed 2026 budget. If a referral motion is brought forward at this meeting today directing administration to report back on additional information that administration requires additional time to provide an answer, the clerk will put the referral on the screen and add the requested additional information as a line item to the motion to beginning a running list. This will provide other members to add additional items to the referral motion if they wish. Once all members have spoken and the debate is closed, the vote on the referral motion will be called. A member may request a separate vote be taken on any of the items listed in the referral motion. If the referral motion is carried, administration would prepare a supplemental report in response to the referral motion, and the report would be published on the same meeting agenda as the proposed 2026 budget report as supplement report in November. Do any members of council have any questions respecting this process? We should be pros at it now. Okay. So seeing no questions, we will begin with the report from administration respecting CM 2515, 2026, 2027 preliminary service forecast, community building services, and I will ask Darren Anderson, Chief Financial Officer, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to session 3 out of our 5 sessions. We will get quickly into it as we know time is very valuable. Today we're going to focus on community building, and we have appendices A through E to get through. We're going to do short presentations on each, and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Mr. May, to direct traffic. Mr. May.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Baczynski, I'll call on Karen again to give us an overview of sustainable infrastructure.
Go ahead, Ms. Again.
Right, good morning. Through you, Mayor Baczynski, my name is Karen Sagan, and I represent the Sustainable Infrastructure Department. We are responsible for providing long-range infrastructure planning, engineering, and technical supports for the delivery of public infrastructure services. Our department works closely with 3 departments within the organization. Planning and Development Services, by supporting infrastructure planning and preparing for future infrastructure needs to support growth. We work with Roadways and Transportation in preparing for the delivery of transportation services, and with Water, Waste and Environment in preparing for the delivery of water, wastewater, and stormwater services. Our role in supporting these services largely centers around developing projects and plans that find the balance between managing the assets that we own and ensuring our infrastructure is designed with the capacity required to support our growing city. At a very high level, our mandate is to provide infrastructure asset management, long-range infrastructure planning, and thoughtful coordination and integration of infrastructure projects. Our team is primarily made up of engineers, technologists, asset management, geospatial, and geomatic professionals, as well as staff experience with construction management. The work we do includes conducting infrastructure studies, collecting and analyzing data, project plans and designs, developing and recommending strategic policy direction, all regarding the stewardship of city assets. The professional and technical expertise we provide supports planning and design of transportation and utility infrastructure projects. In our work, we consider the broad needs of our growing city and the changing service needs of our customers. We aim to find integrated solutions that balance all of these needs. We support the delivery of infrastructure projects also by providing GIS data, monitor work performance during construction, coordinating construction activities, and providing construction services such as surveys and locates of infrastructure. Our department has a supporting role in virtually every transportation and utility infrastructure projects being delivered by the city, and many other projects across all service areas. In recent years, we have several advancements aligned with our mandate. These include the development of a long-range infrastructure plan, providing enhanced project management controls and project evaluation and readiness assessments, leading and collaborating planning processes that consider both maintaining existing assets, identifying infrastructure needs to support growth, and incorporating approved policy directions. We've delivered on a state of infrastructure report and are now in the development of a corporate asset management plan. We've completed various studies such as the wastewater servicing study, or the water and wastewater servicing study, which helps guide our infrastructure planning processes. We continually respond to the direction of council and provide effective support to our partners, both internally and externally, in the delivery of infrastructure services. Our department has 6 out-of-scope positions and just over 72 in-scope positions consisting of both permanent and casual staff. Our 2026 operating budget for the department is $8.7 million, which represents a 13% increase over our 2025 budget. Our budget primarily consists of salaries, benefits, and employee-related expenses. Our operating expenses are shared with the utility, where approximately 40% of our expenses are paid by the utility rate, and the remaining 60% paid through the mill rate, which is why you'll see at the bottom that our general operating budget is $5.3 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next is Autumn Dawson to give us an overview of planning and development.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Autumn Dawson. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services Department, and I'm pleased to present our operating budget and show how our work contributes to a safe, healthy, inclusive, and sustainable Regina. Our department plays a vital role in shaping complete communities and vibrant neighborhoods. Guided by the city's official community plan, we support growth and development that enhances the economic health and vibrancy of our city. Our work spans a wide range, from planning new growth areas and ensuring infrastructure meets city standards, to developing policies and programs that support investment, to inspecting small-scale construction projects like backyard decks and garages. In short, we support the building of community. We provide end-to-end support for developers, builders, and residents, ensuring projects align with city growth goals and regulations. Our focus is always on delivering a positive customer experience. We collaborate with internal teams, external stakeholders, First Nation partners, and other jurisdictions to advance economic growth opportunities within and around Regina and work to revitalize existing neighborhoods. The department is highly visible, public-facing department. The work we do involves many stakeholders, and while Council sees applications during meetings, much of our work happens behind the scenes through public outreach, consultations, and engagements with the development and building community and the public. As for an overview of the department, there are 7 branches within the department with approximately 100 staff, including administrative professionals, technical experts, building officials, mechanical inspectors, professional engineers and technologists, policy professionals, and professional planners. In May 2025, the City Centre branch and the Housing branch joined our department, resulting in an increase in FTEs and budget that you'll see in the information. The 2026 budget reflects the transfer of the Social Development Reserve and the federal HAF Housing Accelerator Fund dollars into our department. As a result, you'll see the total department expenses at around $23 million. However, $10 million of those are directed back into Regina through programs that support vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable growth. The other expenses reflect staffing and operating budget to deliver the department's business as usual. Department revenue comes from building and development permit fees and are annually around $3.8 million. The intake of the fees is subject to market fluctuation and construction activity, however. Example of services delivered by the department included over 2,500 building permits issued in 2024, totaling $531 million in construction value. 55 planning applications were reviewed, including subdivision, zoning, and discretionary uses, many of which came before council. 85 submissions for grants and incentives that were reviewed across 3 programs, our Heritage, City Centre, and Housing programs. And to date, our inspectors have completed over 10,000 inspections. I want to highlight that the city was recognized for our efforts in service delivery by the Canadian Home Builders Association through their municipal benchmarking report, where Regina placed 4th out of 23 municipalities, taking into consideration permit approval timelines, planning services, and municipal charges. Looking ahead, we remain committed to delivering consistent, reliable, and data-driven services. Recent improvements include online submissions and payment options for our customers when applying for permits, and digital plan review by our staff for faster turnaround times. We continue to address the national housing crisis through zoning and policy reviews with a focus on expanding housing options citywide. We also need to stay current on building and energy code changes and other evolving technologies to ensure Regina remains competitive and resilient. In summary, this budget reflects our department's commitment to supporting growth, enabling economic opportunities, and delivering the services that residents and businesses rely on. Thank you. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Next, I'll ask Chelsea Lowe to please provide an overview of Indigenous relations.
Go ahead,
Good
Ms.
morning, everyone. Good morning, through the chair. So Indigenous Relations was created in 2022 with some changes made this year, both to the leadership and to the service directory. We've hit a different stride at the city. So our role has always been to be a central service unit to the city, to elected officials, to everybody here, to assist with including Indigenous tradition, history, culture, knowledge, all of it into the work we do at the city through the policies, procedures, and operations here. Most of that work is developed and incorporated through CTIGWIN, which is the Indigenous framework. Our department budget is 1.95 million. We currently have 5.5 staff. Lots of changes to the budget document you guys have in front of you. We do not have community well-being or housing within our department anymore. It's just Indigenous relations. The things that we deliver now will be overseeing respectful and culturally appropriate inclusion of Indigenous worldview, intergovernmental relations, support, and connections for First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people with the City of Regina. We advise and support the city departments with the Indigenous to include Indigenous worldview in their work. And we provide guidance on First Nations, Métis, and Inuit cultural protocols as well. We also lead and facilitate the Elders Advisory Committee for the city. We also support, organize, and collaborate and program the ceremony site within the city as well, and provide opportunity for collaboration and community, and often lead that incorporation and community activation for Indigenous ceremony, cultural, and traditional events and activities. So National Indigenous Peoples Day, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, this all comes through our office. So yeah, the budget's 1.95 million. We currently have 5.5 staff. We have worked with a variety of different departments to realign some of the positions within the city to make sure that there were a few positions within other departments that would fit better under Indigenous relations. And so with the support of other directors, we've made that happen to really be able to deliver on that work. And we're really just getting started. I just honestly got the first staff member over September 1st, so I'm not alone anymore, which is really great. So looking forward to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Chad Jedlick to talk to us about land, real estate, and economic development.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. We provide distinct services for land development, real estate, and economic development, so I'll speak to each one separately. For economic development, my position serves as a single point of contact for businesses contemplating large projects or investments in the city. My role was created at the request of EDR to help facilitate municipal approvals for Cargill, FCL, and Viterra as they were assessing investment decisions. The goal of the position is to provide exceptional customer service and to respond to questions at the speed of business. My position deals with complex development applications or incentives that require significant coordination beyond a single department in City Hall, and usually involve external partners such as the Crowns or ministries like Trade and Export Development and EDR. The workload for this fluctuates based on the projects that are being considered, but the real workload is spread out amongst experts in planning, operations, and legal, so I'm more of a coordinator or a contact person. The time allocated to this position is a half-time FTE, which is actually paid for out of the LDR right now, but being proposed to be shifted to mill rate. The second area is the real estate branch, which provides full real estate services to all city departments, as well as interacts with the public. We negotiate and manage lease agreements, grant and obtain easements and encroachments, arrange appraisals, sell properties, buy properties, manage tax title properties and vacant city land, conduct due diligence on potential acquisitions such as the emergency shelter, maintain a database of all historical agreements related to city lands, and handle questions from residents and businesses regarding city lands. The real estate branch has 4 staff with 2 out of scope and 2 in scope. Our third area is a land development branch, which assesses, recommends, and executes on land development strategies for city-owned lands. We do not engage in vertical development such as building or constructing buildings. Our customers are those who purchase service lots and land parcels from us to construct new homes and commercial developments. Our owners are city councils who represent the taxpayers. We deliver our land development services through internal forces and through the use of external third-party land development managers to better handle the cyclical nature of the business and the unique skills associated with land development. We are therefore a relatively small team with 3 out-of-scope staff and 1 in-scope accountant that also handles work for the real estate branch. The benefit of the community is twofold. First, we benefit taxpayers with the goal of maximizing financial profit on greenfield development activities. All profits from the land development activities are returned to the LDR. Second, We benefit residents and businesses by investing in council-approved projects such as the yards and Taylor Fields that would not be financially profitable, but are important community building projects. The revenue and expenses for land development branch are unique, as operations are funded through the land development reserve and do not impact the mill rate. The cost of salaries and overheads to fund operations for land and real estate is approximately $2 million, with each specific project having its own development budget with its own expenses and revenue so that profitability can be tracked. The demand for these services has increased significantly with Council's adoption of the land development and disposition strategy at the end of 2024, which gave administration better direction and guiding principles by which to manage the city's land holdings. The total change in cost to deliver services in 2026 is forecasted to be stable. However, there is a ask for a FTE for a regional coordinator position that relates more to the regional aspects of this area. That position, if approved, would serve as a single point of contact for adjacent RMs, towns, First Nations, and other regional neighbors wanting or needing to interact with the city. Look forward to any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we'll have Teal Orban and Brad Gore present on tourism.
Good morning. I'm Brad Gore, Director of Destination Marketing, and this is Teal Orban, the Director of Destination Stewardship. We'll be presenting on the tourism branch, otherwise known as Tourism Regina. Tourism promotes the city as a destination to attract tourists, business travelers, and event goers, while also bringing in major events and conferences that drive year-round visitation and economic growth. In addition, we administer the events, conventions, and trade shows, the ECT funding program, and ensure strong coordination and communication amongst tourism stakeholders and city partners. We serve a wide range of external customers. The four main visitors to Regina are typically attending for leisure, events, business, or visiting friends and family. We also work closely with partners such as Tourism Saskatchewan, the Regina Hotel Association, Regina International Airport, attractions, event organizations, and major sports. We collaborate with these tourism partners to track and report on several performance indicators. For example, in the first half of 2025, visitor spending is up 10%, flight passengers arrived are up nearly 10%, and hotel occupancy is up 4%. The branch delivers its services of destination marketing, stewardship, event bidding, event activation, and visitor services year-round, ensuring continuous promotion and support of Regina as a tourism destination. We also ensure that the performance of these services are tracked and compared against our own internal goals. For example, during the first half of the year, visitor interactions have nearly tripled. 4 times as many events were activated. We secured 6 times as many future events with ECT funding. We've advertised to nearly 5 million prospective visitors, doubled our email subscribers, drove website visits up 64%, while growing social media followers across all platforms.
In terms of the benefit to the community, tourism enhances quality of life for residents by attracting visitors, conferences, and events that create a vibrant city atmosphere with more entertainment options close to home. These efforts drive economic growth through visitor spending, which was over $580 million last year, job creation, and investment in local businesses and infrastructure, ensuring both residents and guests benefit from stronger, more dynamic Regina. Tourism operating budget is just under $2 million, with over half being related to staffing and the rest used for out-of-market advertising, event activation, and the annual ECT expenses. Tourism isn't just a cost center, as we anticipate securing almost $300,000 in offsetting revenue from the Regina Hotel Association and provincial and federal funding programs. The demand in the visitor economy has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. Regina's tourism industry was heavily impacted by the pandemic and further challenged by a failed brand launch in 2023. But demand has rebounded, with visitor spending surpassing pre-pandemic levels by the end of 2024, with the Tourism Regina brand recovered and Canadians shifting away from traditional U.S. destinations. Regina has now a strong opportunity to compete with other regional municipalities in capturing more travelers, events, and conferences. Thank you. We look forward to answer your questions.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Baczynski. Those are the services before us today, and I'll pass it over to Mr. Anderson for his closing comments.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Today we've heard about how the city of Regina truly is a community and how we invest in making ourselves a community. I want to thank all of the senior leaders and their teams for all the work they put into this presentation for you today. And we'll turn it over back to the mayor for questions after delegations. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Anderson and Mr. May, and everybody here today presenting. We appreciate the time and effort it took to put the information together and come present to us. So with that, we will go into delegations. So I would like to call upon Delegation D 25-176, Bill Wells. Morning, Mr. Wells. So again, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of council may have for you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for this opportunity to speak to you this morning. As noted, my name is William Wells. I'm a Regina resident and member of the Albert Park Community Association Board. I wanted to take a moment, and last week I had to report to you the sort of distressing news that our co-chair had ended up in the hospital unexpectedly, of course, and he's here with me this morning, so he's recovered, so we're all very happy to see that. To the document, which is Appendix B, Planning Development of the Community Building Services, you will note that our presentation cites city and national policies and provides historic reference. Importantly, we identified both issues and solutions in our submission, which the acting city clerk circulated to you this morning, and thank you very much for that. In our submission last week, we attempted to emphasize the benefits of community engagement in the decision-making processes of City Council. It has been many years since the community engagement was replaced by the corporate governance model that you use currently. We're presenting our observations and recommendations in the context of the recent Queen Street development proposal. We want to acknowledge that this drama in decision-making was not a legacy item for this, or was a legacy item for this council and not one of your creation. In the end, no worthy goals of council and the government of Canada were achieved. The immediate neighborhood was not satisfied, and we suspect the developer was frustrated. So our interest in this presentation is with respect to what are the lessons learned. On page 2 of CM 25-15, it states in the community well-being impact text, quote, since 2021, community safety and well-being has become a staple priority for City Council and administration. In addition to the City Council endorsement of the CSWB plan, CSWB appears to be one of the city's strategic priorities with the goal to create a healthier and more inclusive community. The city can realize this priority and goal by addressing a number of strategies, include working with partners and community to improve safety and well-being of all residents, advancing inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, and advancing affordability and safe housing. This has all been considered during the development of preliminary service forecasts, which includes investments that will help the progression of the CSWB plan. This text repeats the term inclusive, and so we thought to better understand why the city included it, so we looked in the Canadian dictionary and found the following definition of inclusive: not excluding any section in society or of society. It was our impression that the community is only included at the very end of the process, resulting in reaction and resistance and a faint hope for reconciliation, and thus is not a partner. We then looked at the values and benefits wording of Appendix B. Quote, customer experience is enhanced through end-to-end support we provide for all aspects of planning services, ranging from pre-application inquiries to council-approved development applications. Through this process, we guide our customers in navigating regulatory requirements, city bylaws, strategic plans, and incentive programs. Since the community was not engaged in all aspects of the planning process, we conclude that we're not customers of the planning process. Residents and stakeholders benefit from a better understanding of the necessary steps we need to take to complete their project. Incentive programs also offer funding opportunities for the preservation and revitalization of our community. Because residents and stakeholders are identified differently in the city's planning process, we looked to the Oxford Dictionary to understand the difference better and found the following. in the Oxford reference, all those with interests in an organization, for example, shareholders, employees, suppliers, customers, and members of the wider community who could be affected by environmental consequences of an organization's activities. Stakeholder theory is an approach to business that attempts to incorporate the interests of all stakeholders in a business, thus opposed to the view that a firm is only responsible to its owners, the shareholder value. It thus attempts to adopt an inclusive rather than a narrow approach to business responsibility. Given that City Council's role is to provide vision and the administration's role is to manage the vision, we look to the Institute of Project Management to better understand the meaning of stakeholder and found the following. In project management, stakeholders are people who have in one way or another an interest in and are impacted, whether positively or negatively, by the current project. An individual or an organization can represent stakeholders. They can hold an important role in the project as they greatly influence it, and no project can succeed without their presence and input.
About 30 seconds left.
Thank you. This text would seem to imply that residents, taxpayers, electors, community organizations are in fact stakeholders, and so we read further, quote, the key word when it comes to who are stakeholders is engagement. A project manager should work towards the best engagement of stakeholders possible. Working together with stakeholders will ensure healthy relationships and good communications, which will help with the smooth functioning of a project. In conclusion, we would encourage City Council to work with an inclusive planning process that engages the community to build communities instead of approving buildings that are often not welcomed by the surrounding community. We hope that our review of current policies in our submission could also be part of the dialogue that Councillor Froh referenced during our previous submission and presentation last week. In conclusion, we would welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Let's see if any of my colleagues have any questions. Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Through the chair, thank you for your presentation, Bill. Now, just a question here. You're talking about the community was not engaged in all aspects of the planning process. Could you expand on where you're saying that things were missed and how you felt people or organizations felt excluded?
If I use Queen Street as an example, the zoning changes that were done there were not sort of, at least our association didn't feel that we were asked if we agreed. The previous council just made the changes. And then we were presented with a proposal based on the changes that we were unaware of, unaware is maybe a little too harsh, that we were not part of the process. And so our argument is if we had been involved in that initially, then when projects came forward, we'd already sort of done a preliminary sort of what could work and what wouldn't, as opposed to here's the proposal, are you in favor? You've got 3 weeks or 3 days or whatever to respond. So what we're suggesting in terms of Councillor Froh's comment is let's look at our community association boundaries and what are the areas that could be developed and what might they be developed as, so that we could provide you with input in advance so you would know that this particular item or this particular proposal would be more difficult to achieve than if it were over here or over there. But that's not the way it works presently. We find out when the proposal is in front of you, kind of thing. That results in sort of reaction as opposed to, well, we had input. We said, this is the kind of development we'd like here, this is the kind of development we'd like there. And we're aware that there's a NIMBY factor, but we think if our community is engaged early, we can deal with the NIMBY factor. But if we're not engaged until it's in front of you, then NIMBY often takes the precedence.
So where I'm going with this is, please fully respect the role of the community association, but in any organization, I've been involved in many volunteer organizations. I say many. There are politics and people that are active and people that are passive and people that
Councillor Burton, do you have a question for him?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm framing the question. So as we have these people that are on a board and committee, then I'm going to challenge you to identify why the community association, I'm not saying it's a wrong place to go for some of this consultation, but you may have points of view that bubble up to the surface in the community because one group is active and another area of the community is inactive. So I'd like to have you describe that, because I know that there is a different amount of push and pull in politics and opinion in organizations such as this.
And that's fair comment. Let me give you two examples. A few weeks ago, a number of weeks ago, city administration from another department contacted us and said, we've got this proposal for a cricket pitch between Queen and Pasco south of Parliament. So we sat down with the city staff and we talked about it and how it was laid out and what would go where, and did we have some suggestions and so on. Before it was sort of very public. And we've then spoken to others beyond our board and others. For example, there's at least 3 ad hoc regular cricket matches going on in our neighborhood almost on a daily basis. So we went and talked to them and said, what do you guys think? This is what the proposal is. This is what the map looks like. We think it's a good idea. What do you think? Right? So that was an example of sort of how we were engaged very early on in the planning, where there was the opportunity to have some impact. We then went out and talked to people in the community about it, and it's on our website kind of thing where we're saying this is a good thing, we should promote this, this is positive, okay? And there's been some tweaking based on comments. So that would be an example of sort of how it might be done in terms of having that discussion early. We had another discussion last night with respect to Dr. Perry Park, the school site and park. There were some views advanced that said the way to address the drainage issues is we just threaten the city with a lawsuit. We didn't accept that argument because the view of our board was we want to talk to city first in a positive way about what can be done with the things that need to be addressed at the park and the school site. And we want to talk to the school board. As opposed to, well, let's ring them up, tell them to get it done by Thursday, and if not, we'll just tell them we're going to sue them. We don't think that's an approach, but I think if you have that kind of, shall we say, respect in the process, those arguments are less viable in a conversation in a community to say, well, you know, the first reaction is to yell and scream and threaten. No, that's because the other side, meaning the city, wants to work with us, then we don't move to that. But if it's always sort of last minute that we find out and then you get the reaction and it bubbles up, as you say, and it becomes often the loudest voice because there's an emotional reaction to the fact that, geez, now we got this confronted and nobody talked to us, and gee, I don't like it, and you know, it's too tall or it's too this, or the garbage cans are in the front or the back based on, you know, the Queen Street discussion, right? Those issues came up and the developer tried to address them, but it was at the last minute kind of thing. It was at the final stage as opposed to the beginning. So I think there's a difference. I think the process that's used can affect the result that you get. And if the process is short-circuited, then you get a NIMBY or an emotive reaction as opposed to, well, you work through the process and we've dealt with all of those issues. Now, if the city and the school board say we don't care if the playground is full of water every time it rains and the kids are in the mud, and you don't care as a city, which I don't believe to be the case, but if you were to say that, then maybe the NIMBY argument would win. But if we can sit down and work through and solve the problem and then go to the residents and the parents and say, the city and the school board have responded to this issue and here's how it'll be fixed, that reaction doesn't occur. Is that helping?
Yeah, that helps
Councillor?
frame that. But where I'm taking this is there's a lot of people here working in the city that are engaging residents. And you know, in your presentation that you said with the Queen Street development that the community is not engaged in all aspects of the planning services. I challenge you that we are right now
Hold on one second. I will respectfully say if we're using the word challenge, that's getting into debate.
You bet. Okay.
So what I would respectfully ask is that if there's a difference of opinion in terms of what administration's done, hold that for administration, and then we can take the information from the delegate and then pose the question to administration.
Challenge is the wrong word. I submit to you that the administration does engage many organizations, and as you say, the community was not engaged in all aspects. There's a cost benefit that the
okay, Councillor Burton, this is commentary that would be directed for admin for your time when you have your time, like to say an overall statement. Right now, it's for Mr. Wells just to ask pointed questions of information that you would like to gather from him.
So how how does the city benefit if they try to do the most consultation versus the adequate amount of consultation? Because there's a cost to that. As we're looking at the budgets right now, this much is not necessarily better than this much.
Couple of comments. Let me use the cricket pitch park. I don't know how much cost was involved in having two people from the city come and meet with us for 2 hours to get our input and ultimately our support versus the amount of time that was spent on Queen Street, because that took months and months and months here. So to me, I see a difference. Now, when we say we want to be involved, that doesn't mean we want to sit at the desk beside the planning department, because again, our argument is this is not a personality thing. We don't have a personal problem. We're not saying somebody's a bad person. We're saying that the process. So could we have a discussion about all of the land in Albert Park that moved from discretionary use to permitted use? Could we have had that discussion? Could we have it now? Could we tell you what we think the reaction will be based on those changes? Because when you move it from discretionary to permitted, the public process changes significantly, right? So if we'd had some input into that, could tell you what would work, or maybe we had other ideas where some of our neighbors say, gee, it'd be nice if this were done or that were done, we could give you that information. Do we want to then sit beside you every time a developer comes in with a package? No. But if we're involved at the beginning of the process and we provide some overall kind of commentary of what we think is good, bad, or otherwise, and then when a proposal comes forward, we have some opportunity to provide some feedback with the developer and maybe with city staff, hopefully with city staff. So the developer would then know before they came to you with the sort of the plan that had community buy-in. It used to work that way at the city. Okay? Not so many years ago, it used to work that way. Now, are we saying it has to be done in a particular way? No, not really. I mean, there's a variety of ways of achieving the objective of engagement, right? Because the text seems to suggest that engagement is part of the process of making decisions and having community engagement, right? So we're saying there's lots of ways of doing it. As a community association, we'd like to be able to talk to you about what could be done in our neighborhood, how it would look, how it would contribute. Because I guess when you see those developments, are you approving buildings? And this is not a pejorative kind of question, but are you approving buildings or building community? Now the text says that you're building communities, but if a community has no input until the final stage, I don't know how that's building community. Right? Because we're not there until the final, and then it's either take it or leave it kind of thing, or have a fight, right? And Queen Street being the example. And we lived with Queen Street, that's why we use that as an example. Now maybe it's not of concern in other neighborhoods, although I doubt that, but if there is an openness, at least on our part, to having those conversations, like we did with the cricket pitch, I think you get a different result. I think the process changes the result, and it's when you engage the process. So if it's not until the end, you get what you get, and NIMBY often wins, at least in terms of the reaction. But if we're involved at the outset.
Okay. Any further questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rastovich, go ahead.
Yeah. Through the chair. I guess my question is, because you're talking about, you want some communication with, neighborhoods. You want, which totally makes sense to me. I guess, are you relating some of this to the Housing Accelerator Fund? So the Queen Street development, that wasn't associated with Housing Development Accelerator Fund. That wasn't, because that went to the Planning Commission as well, and through Councillor. I guess we had a vote on that. So versus the Housing Accelerator Fund, that was more where the city can do whatever.
As I understand the process, you got to a point with the Housing Accelerator Fund where there were changes made to zoning. Things went from discretionary to permitted by the previous council, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Which meant that level of discussion on a project went away. As opposed to if there had been discussion about, well, do you think this is an appropriate parcel of land to be discretionary or permitted? That's a different question that's earlier on in the process. So if people have agreed that this could or should be developed in such a way, and therefore discretion or permitted use is okay, then you've already got the answer to that question. Right, but when it sneaks up on people as a surprise.
Can I just interject for 1 second? I just want to make sure, because this is meetings to talk about the 2026, 2027 budget deliberations. So I would respectfully say that our focus should probably be most effective for public transparency around talking about, you know, the interest of those numbers, not necessarily about previous developments. So I just would say to be most effective in our time here today, because we have limited time, if we'd focus on that versus previous developments that have already happened.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? If there's general agreement to doing something, then you'd have to have less hurdles. It's when there's not general agreement or even knowledge and things then appear, it provokes a reaction, and generally it's not applause because we didn't know that was coming. So it's, and we're not trying to say in terms of Albert Park, we only want to talk about things that might come as a result of, for example, the Prime Minister's announcement Sunday, right? Now, I appreciate Regina's not, as I understand it, in that initial group, but at some point, presumably you will be. So is that all going to come as a surprise? Or maybe you'd like our input before that hammer comes down? And we'll probably be more constructive if we're engaged now as opposed to after you're trying to get something done in order to justify the $38 or $39 million.
Okay.
I hear you.
Any other questions, Councillor Raskovich?
I hear you, no.
Okay. Councillor Sickley's, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, your worship, and good morning, Bill. Thank you for coming back again. I think we both bear the same cross of being right all the time. It's really tough.
Thank you, I think.
Seriously, though, you know, full and clear communication is the key to better relations. My wife reminds me of that all the time when I'm on the wrong end of that. And it appears from the time I met you till now that I've learned that the loop was broken or changed. Maybe broken is too rough a word. The loop, the communication loop between this group and our people was broken years ago.
This is a great commentary for the time when we have admin, so we should get to questions here, and then if you want to make that comment to admin, that'd be more appropriate.
Will do. Thank you for that. So the features of the way we do it now moving forward, instead of looking in the past, you'd like, we're talking about time for engagement isn't sufficient. So that's part one. Part two, who do we speak to is sort of what I'm thinking. Whose opinion matters most? And perhaps is there a training piece here? And the reason I call it training piece, I mean, you're the only association that's here, and we have many in the city. So, you know, you probably wouldn't agree with me, but I'm just going to say that you and your association are outliers in a very good way. And some associations are more involved than others.
Councillor.
Another way of saying it. Is there a training piece, or how do we communicate? How do we fix this? This is what I'm trying to figure out. How do we fix this? From your perspective.
Sure. First observation, I think there are several ways mechanisms, structures, processes that could be considered that would address how it might be done better.
Yeah.
So what was isn't necessarily the only way of doing it. There are other ways of doing it. Second observation, maybe I go back to the cricket pitch. We were engaged at the very outset before it was sort of even hardly public, so that we could provide some feedback. The immediate neighborhood did, had engagement, sort of the houses right around there had some input. So it, in some respects, reflects their comments, reflects the community comments. We can convene with the city if it required a public meeting and invite people to come and see what's being considered. So I think if The third observation I would make is when the process changed, before that, there was a higher level of community engagement in these kind of processes than is the case today. But after 15 or whatever years it's been of being told you don't have a role, because my observation might be too, last week was public-facing services. Apparently, planning is not a public-facing service. There's a message in that. So you have 15 years of we're not interested in your thoughts. To turn that around, which might be a critique of the fact that we're the only community here, is that they don't think they have a role. They haven't had a role in memory. So why would you come here?
Yeah.
And we're saying, well, we live through Queen Street, so yeah, we don't want another Queen Street, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's divisive in the community. It doesn't get you achieving what you need to achieve, or the federal government in the case of the federal funding and expectation, or the social issue relative to housing. So nobody won in that process. So maybe if we change the process, we get a different result. And again, it can be done a variety of ways. What we're suggesting for our part is, can we sit down, a la sort of the suggestion of a larger meeting, where we can have some of our community people sit down with planning people, yourselves, and say, okay, if we looked at Albert Park, what are the areas that are subject to some change? Whether that be a park or a recreation issue or be a planning issue, let us talk about how we'd like to see Albert Park developed and how you think it might be developed, and see if we can find some agreement on a range of topics that say this is what Albert Park can be, because we want to build a community, not that it's not a community, but we want to build it going forward. And that means a whole range of topics that are worthy of discussion and not worthy of conflict down the road, because all of a sudden you've got something that nobody knew was coming except you, figuratively.
Yeah.
And the rest of us simply get to say, yeah, but, right? I'm not sure that's a process. I don't use that process in anything else. Excuse me.
Thank you, Bill, and I'll save my questions for Edmund.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, thanks for your presentation today, Mr. Wells. You can return to the gallery.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we will now consider item CM 25-15, 2026-2027 preliminary service forecast, community building services. So I would like to move this report, as I'd like to put the following referral motion forward, as I had indicated last week. So it would be that administration report back with the service implications and risks and service adjustment options to achieve the following 2026 general operating budget mill rate scenarios, and I put up 6%, 7.5%, and 9%. So just to add quick context, this is not set in stone. This is to give us an indicator of what those trade-offs would be in those scenarios. This doesn't mean that the ultimate decision at budget deliberations could be lower or it could be higher or anything in between. It's to set a general benchmark somewhere in the middle of 0 to what the forecast is today, to give us a sense of what those trade-offs would look like. So it's so that administration has a bit of a benchmark to look at, to help us as council understand what the risks and service implications are with respect to adjustments to any funding that we may or may not approve. So with that, could I get a seconder for that? Councillor Bezo, thank you. Okay, and as the mover, I just had one question for probably Mr. Jedlick. Just in terms of the outlook, in terms of development in the city, what's your sense on, because I see we kind of have our, I would say, a stable outlook for kind of the department in that. Given the growth of the city, is that, like, do you see a ramp up given the growth that we project, or what's your kind of sense of kind of our real estate options in area as we grow and even into the region?
Thank you for the question. The way the real estate branch is structured, it's a lot of transactions. So as transactions increase, we could add a member there, but right now it's manageable. It's very much process oriented. On the land development side, as we undertake more projects, it depends on whether those services are internal or external. And so we have a small team that looks to try and hire on external land development managers. So the towns is handled through a third-party development manager, Terra Developments. And what's nice about that is it allows the city to transfer that risk of basically the cyclical nature of that business, where some years it's very, very busy, where you'd have to ramp up for that, and other years it'll slow right down, and maybe for multiple years. The other portion is that it's very specialized knowledge, and so oftentimes those land development managers are managing numerous projects, whereas we have sort of a fluctuating number of projects. So by outsourcing that, it allows us to sort of better, maintain some consistency within our department, but each of those projects really run on their own budget, with revenue forecasts and expense forecasts. So that's how we handle the varying degree of the cyclicality of the industry.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Bezo. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Very good motion through the chair or yourself, Mayor. Would you be open to a friendly amendment to include one more item from 6, 7.5 to 9? Would you be opposed to putting Bank of Canada posted inflationary rate as one more option?
I'm just going to check with Mr. Anderson if there's anything that's unclear about that, but I think I'd be open to that. Just want to check with him if that'd be okay.
Yeah, through the chair, obviously timing of when you want that number, if we could just stick to say 2% or 2.5%, it would be more clear than us trying to guess what time period you wanted an inflationary rate for.
Councillor Bezo?
Pick the 2025 inflationary index, which is posted as of today.
Okay.
So what? I just want to make sure that's clear.
Through the chair, do you want me to look that up right now?
Yeah.
I think if we could I think it'd be better to put it clearly up there. And then Mr. Anderson, I'll just get you to email the clerk and then they can get it up on the screen. And while Mr. Anderson's looking for that, Councillor Bezo, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Okay. Questions to the administration through the chair here. In the department that does the planning and development here, I did have a significant amount of feedback about the coordination of the water network expansion and the Dudney overpass construction and time for that. Are we adequately staffed? Do we have the proper tools and things to manage it? That our budget and stuff supports what we need to properly coordinate the various development activities?
Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe that would be a conversation for the capital portion of the budget discussions. That would be more appropriate for that discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Second question. I did, and I should probably know this, that Appendix C, Indigenous Relations here, the current year has 21.3 million for community expense and drops to 0, 26 and 27. I just wonder if that could be explained to me through the chair, that change.
Ms. Lowe?
That is, through the chair, that's just the removal of the housing and community well-being branches from the Indigenous Relations Department.
Okay.
They've been reallocated.
Okay. Perfect. So this one, I don't know where in the administration this will go, but as per the presentation here, There are a variety of groups around the community that could be engaged as we're dealing with it. And what's the right amount? It's that Goldilocks zone of not too hot, not too cold, just right. And there's various, and the community associations are a very good representative group, but there's also, as I mentioned, other things in here. How do we have any way to determine how much community consultation, because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes budget for us to do and the most engagement is not necessarily the best engagement as far as I'm concerned. So is there any way that you use to ascertain the proper level of community engagement?
Ms. Bratton?
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe Ms. Johnson would speak to this.
Thank you. Through the chair. My team, I have a very small engagement team, and they work with the program areas on each topic or each new project to determine the level of engagement. And so they have conversations about what type of input they would like or need from the public, what types of tools we should use for that. So whether it's an online survey or in-person focus groups, they do consider amount of time and amount of budget for each of these tools or tactics. And then they put together a plan and, working with the program area, implement said engagement plan. I would offer there's probably no exact answer or no right answer to that, but in collaboration internally, we try to determine a good level of engagement for each different type of project.
And so through the chair right now, you feel you do have adequate budget support and a team that can properly engage the community to gather, like I said, the best, not the most.
Thank you. Through the chair, we have a good amount of budget and team and staff for what we're currently doing. I would say if we were asked to do more than what we've been doing the last few years, we probably don't have adequate staff resources, but we do a fair amount of engagement. I would say the other thing we do with the program areas is determine if it is a very significant amount of engagement. Sometimes we don't do it internally. Sometimes we work with the program area and they allocate budget to it and we hire external engagement. So that's always an option too if we determine we need more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fro, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I suspect this is a question for planning, but I'll let you decide. My question relates to staff costs and professional services costs in relation to the Community Land Trust work. And so I guess first for context for those that may be listening, but certainly I think all of us as colleagues have talked about it, and there's I think certainly very through the chair significant support I believe amongst council for our work on the Community Land Trust. I think as a member, the goal of a land trust is to acquire and develop and steward affordable housing, and really the goal in this case with a focus on North Central and perhaps then Heritage might be is rather to provide affordable home ownership to residents. So we use our tools as a city to acquire land, which is held in a land bank. The Community Land Trust is built by community for community, decides how that how those titles are allocated, but really the end goal is for the same cost as renting, residents can then own their homes, and the benefit of that, of course, is that it advances safety, property values, reconciliation, affordability, economic development. And so in my view, there is something for every one of us here to support, and it may be one of the most important things that we do within our term. And so my question is, I want to make sure that we're allocating the right resources and that we're moving forward, not just judiciously, but we're moving forward with intention on this. And so I guess my question through the chair is, what are the budget dollars allocated towards the Community Land Trust, and do we feel, and how do we feel we're moving along that? Because I believe, Ms. Bratton, you have pretty significant support in this council for this work.
Ms. Bratton, go ahead.
Thank you through the chair, and thank you for this question. We haven't talked about these half-related projects. So this particular project is funded through the Housing Accelerator Fund dollars that the city is receiving. And council will be receiving a more detailed report, I believe it's in October, that speaks to all of the projects that we're allocating funding for and the progress to date on that work. I would refer this to Ms. Dawson to see if she has anything more specific and related to the exact dollars.
Go ahead.
No, nothing yet. Ms. Bryden's covered it. More is coming in October, and we'll have a a better picture of what those allocations are for each project.
Okay, well, through the chair, I guess, given that we're talking about budget today, and I'm fine offline, I would like to know even a preliminary assessment of what has been spent to date, but what we're likely projecting will be required for this specific piece of work, because I assume this is encapsulated within what we're talking about today.
Go ahead, Ms. Bryden.
Thank you through the chair. It is encapsulated in our budget, but it is fully funded. It's not funded by the mill rate. It's funded by the grant.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rasevich, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, I was just looking at Appendix A on sustainable infrastructure. And I guess from 2025 to 2026, we have a 13% increase. And then from 26 to 27, we have a 12% increase. So that's like, so in 2 years, we have a 25% increase in budget. And I guess, could somebody explain to me, I mean, it's quite an increase, 25% in terms of spending. Could we get a bit of an explanation of how we justify 25%?
So thank you for that question through the chair. So there are some positions that have been allocated to increase in that area, generally supporting our GIS, and some consulting dollars for the asset management group. I would ask Ms. Sagan if she has more details that she would like to provide. There's, I'll refer this to Ms. Sagan.
Through the mayor. So as Ms. Bryden said, there's 2 positions in what we call our infrastructure delivery area. Those are to deliver field services. So those are basically inspectors on construction projects, making sure that we have proper quality of construction, and to help mitigate any of the challenges during construction. So we're having an increased demand on wanting those folks on our different project sites, especially as we get into larger integrated projects. There are 2 additional positions also asked for in our geospatial area. Again, that's to deal with just essentially an increasing demand from all services throughout the city requiring GIS data to support those services. In addition to that, in 2026, there's a slight increase to consulting dollars as well, again, primarily in our geospatial area, just to provide specialized technology resources to help with some of the GIS requests that we're receiving.
Yeah, because it's about 1.2 million over those 2 years. That's what it works out to.
Yeah, 27, there's nothing new in the budget. It would be primarily associated with just salary increases.
Okay. So what would happen if we, because obviously we didn't have some of these positions, or we didn't have a GIS, or do we have GIS people currently, or are we just hiring more?
Through the mayor, yes, we already have a GIS department, and this is an addition of 2 staff to that department.
Okay.
Or to that branch, pardon.
What would be the consequence if you didn't have to, if you cut back? I guess if you cut back in that area.
Thank you through the chair. So there, the GIS, I'll start with GIS. So the GIS, geospatial group, is the group that builds the apps that help us, help our community understand the work that we're doing and where and the why of winter maintenance, I believe, is going to be launched this year. We did the construction work. I'm not sure if you're familiar or recall that presentation that was done on the construction app. So that work is all done internally, as well as providing our city crews and folks with mapping and information that we need in order to deliver on our work and services. In relation to the infrastructure planning and our ability to check the quality of work and things as we deliver on these larger infrastructure projects, I would say, this area is newly formed, and we are seeing more complicated work, more complicated construction sites, because we're delivering on some really big integrated infrastructure projects. So Dewdney Avenue, 11th. We've got Sass Drive will be coming soon, Scarth. All of those projects are significant, and it's a different way of doing work and service delivery for the city. And so as we go through these pieces of work, we're identifying where we need to ensure we have proper and adequate resources. And so I would say if we're going to reduce, and part of the work, the motion on the floor is going to be about the impacts of these types of reductions. And I would say, we'd be able to speak to more directly on the impacts of reductions when we bring the work back for the budget conversation.
No, I hear what you're saying. It sounds good. It creates, I remember what you were talking about in terms of construction and roads and where people can go onto city website and they can click, oh, this alleyway, this road, level of, whether it's snow removal, et cetera. I'm just wondering if we have those type of people putting that information, is that creating an efficiency where we can reduce somewhere else?
Through the chair again, I think that what we'll see come December was what those full impacts would be on budget reductions. But I would also just want to add that if we are not out inspecting the work that is done, then we end up taking on assets that might not meet our design requirements, and it costs us more in the long run. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. It's similar question is, I guess, with tourism as well. I just looked to go from 2024, we go to 2027 from 1.2 to 2 million. Say, within few years, we're going up $800,000 in spending. And I'm kind of wondering, I guess what that's all about. And then my question off that would be is if, when you guys were just talking about the successes and hotels and, is there not the potential, if we're creating all the success in the city, to recoup some of that through other organizations? So I guess there's two questions there. One, the 800,000, and then if we're being that successful, why we're not potentially recouping that somehow as some revenue.
Ms. Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair. So I'll start with question number one there, the increase. The increase, you may recall we discussed some of this through the budget cycle last year. It's twofold. So one, we were offered an increase in funding from the Regina Hotel Association if we could show a corresponding increase from city funding to tourism. So that was $250,000 from the Regina Hotel Association if this council approved a $250,000 increase to the tourism budget. That was the Regina Hotel Association acknowledging that tourism was underfunded compared to similar DMOs throughout the country of similar size. And so they wanted to show that commitment themselves, but also wanted to see City Council show that commitment. So that was part of the increase. The other increase was just a transfer of the ECT fund from another operating area of the city into the tourism budget. So to the city budget as a whole, no net increase, just a change moving it from another area into tourism. So those two items combined show that increase. And then to the second part of your question about whether or not there's an opportunity to show increased revenues. Well, yes, in fact, the Regina Hotel Association has seen an increase in hotel occupancy. That's really positive for them and for us. And part of that, they have increased their funding to Tourism Regina because we're showing some of that success and progress. And I'm just looking over to my colleagues, Mr. Gore and Mr. Orban, to see if they have anything else to add. I think that's good for now. Thanks.
Okay, because when I'm looking at the budget, Appendix E, I see a lot of the increases from taxation revenues. 2025, because it goes from 2024.6 and 2025 1.1, and then 26 1.2 and 1.2.
Thank you. Through the chair, the ECT fund is funded through taxation revenues. It's an annual allocation to the events, conventions, and trade show budget. So whereas it was not part of tourism in 2024, so you would see the small amount of revenue there when it was transferred into the budget in 2025. That's nearly a $400,000 transfer into tourism. But as mentioned, it's not new to the city. It's just transferring it from another operating area into the tourism budget.
Okay, so 2024, I just trying to understand this. So this .2, which was fees and charges, so in 2024, I guess, okay, I'm just trying to understand, because what I'm seeing is taxation revenue. That's where the money's coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I can leave it, but I'm looking at what this says, right?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll try one more time to provide more clarity. So taxation revenue would be funding provided from the mill rate to Tourism Regina to do our business as usual. And so in 2024, the ECT fund was not part of the Tourism Regina budget. So that was $375,000 that was not in our tourism budget. So that taxation revenues used for our operating costs, that orange amount there was considerably smaller. In 2025, the ECT fund, so funded through an annual allocation from taxation revenues, was moved into the Tourism Regina budget, and that's why you see a significant increase in how Tourism Regina was funded. It was, but yeah, we moved the ECT fund into Tourism Regina. That's the difference there.
So Councillor Rasevich, I think.
Yeah.
Do you see where that 0.6, if the funding was in the same spot, would have been a 1 million essentially, if the funding was in there before, so.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for you?
No, I'm good for now. I guess this wouldn't be the time, like Councillor Bazo, talking about inflation rate for Canada. I guess this wouldn't be the time that we would say, oh, what would it look like if we, I don't know, had a 5% reduction? Could we put a motion in like that?
So that's essentially what we have up there right now. So this is the, are you talking specifically to an area or just overall?
Overall.
Yeah, so that's the referral, is to ask what would it look like. That's what this referral motion is referring to. So it's referring to different potential mill rates and then asking for what those implications, what exactly you said, what would that look like? So
I was thinking more of 5% reduction overall.
So I think we have that.
Yeah, I can ask for that.
So 13.5 minus 5? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or you're saying or you're saying a negative 5%? Okay. Okay, I wouldn't want to put that up as a part of this amendment. No. I would ask to do it as a separate referral, but I would maybe just ask Mr. Anderson to comment on that. But so you're looking for a minus 5% on the mill rate, is that correct?
I guess there'd be things attached to it, like, just if we would do attrition, kind of like what the government of Canada is talking about, They'd have to find a way, I know that, but, I mean.
I guess just to be clear, are you looking for are you looking for 2026 minus 5%? Okay, so I'll just maybe ask Mr. Anderson to comment on that quick before we put that up. Go ahead.
So through the chair, we could, as a team, work on giving you what it would mean if we had a mill rate increase of minus 5%.
Point of clarification. Through the chair, to my colleague, are you looking for the numbers, Councillor Rasevich, on a 5% reduction in our budget or a 5% reduction in mill rate? Like a negative mill rate of 5?
Yeah, negative.
I think just some clarification through the chair so we can understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Councillor Rasevich.
Or I can wait to the end because.
No. Yeah, we'll have to do it now because it's your only chance to, this is your time right now to do it. So we got to make sure we get it.
I just meant overall, because we haven't heard the other two presentations yet, so maybe I should wait to the end.
Yeah, so it'd have to be divided in pieces. So this is specific to the operating budget, so you could do that now for the operating, like the general operating, and then you could do it again for the capital utility.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? You'd have to do multiple,
Oh.
scenarios, depending on those different budget types, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do operating, sure.
Okay, so you're looking for a negative 5%,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, operating budget. Sure. If that's
Okay,
easier.
can you just say it one more time?
Yeah, 5% in operating budget.
You're saying.
Minus.
Okay, not 5% off of the forecast, you're saying.
No.
The existing budget today.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask Mr. Anderson to
Yeah.
maybe ask this in a
Yeah,
better way.
5% off the existing budget, I guess, for 2026.
Based on the baseline of today, what are the implications?
Would that be like
Yeah.
65 or 70, 45 plus?
So
Go ahead.
through the chair, yeah, if I understand this correctly, he'd be looking for a reduction of approximately $55 million in our total spending of our operating budget.
Would it be more clear to put it in that context, Mr. Anderson, or leave it as the, sorry, I guess we were working that out.
Either, through the chair, either way works. So if he wants to do it in a dollar value of a $55 million savings off our current forecast, or minus 5%, either way, it's the same thing.
Okay. Okay, just give us 1 second.
No. It could be 5% off what they're predicting for 2026 with taxation revenues coming in, right? You know, whether it's provincial money and everything coming in. I think my thing's on.
Well, we're kind of going to get there with those 4 options. So here's those options, those are all increases.
Those are all increases.
But they're less than 13 and a half.
But I think that's what Dennis provided clarity, is he looking for 5%, which is already covered this, and if I understand that correctly, baseline budget of today, he's wondering what the implications of reducing our budget by 5%, our baseline of today, which is so he needs to give some clarification. So I think the way to frame it is based upon the baseline operating budget of today, what are the implications of reducing that by 5%?
Yeah.
I think that's what he's asking.
I like the dollar amount.
Yeah, 55. Let's see.
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute recess just to get this, or sorry, 15-minute recess. Ask folks to take their seats, please. Okay, I'll ask the clerk if we can put Councillor Rasovich's referral up on the screen. Okay, Councillor Rasovich, can you take a look at that and see if that makes sense to you? Mr. Anderson, does that make sense for as a referral?
Through the chair, yes, we understand what that referral would mean and we can prepare that.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a point of clarification, Councillor Sickleys, or just, it doesn't need a seconder? Because we're just adding to the list of referrals, so yeah, it's all good. Okay, and I will just ask that we would vote on those two separately. And okay, and you have about a minute 40 left, Councillor Rasovich. Did you have anything further?
No, I'm done.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Mancinelli. Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Rasovich, in regards to point 2, is that an actual goal for budget, or are you just looking for information to understand better the composition of what that would look like and how that would affect the residents you?
Be something that, yeah, it might be, because once maybe we see numbers of how our budget's been increasing over the last 5 years, why not? I mean, maybe there, you know what, if there's things that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing as a city, you know, we can cut back. Like, you know what, I'm going to bring back the potted plants. I know people think $50,000 is nothing, but it's a culture.
Yeah.
Anyways, we can debate, I guess, but
not trying to debate.
No,
I'm trying to decide if I want to support it
Oh.
or not, and what it's looking to elicit for information. Through the chair, I'm just wondering, when administration does work, what kind of money does it cost to put these forecasts together? Through the chair to administration.
Would like to take that, Mr. Anderson. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor. This is a significant amount of work for us as a senior leadership team. These aren't easy things to accomplish, given everything that the city does. So when we get to something as sizable as an 18.5%, it's going to take hundreds of hours of time internally for us to do this. Costing, if we were to cost it out, it would be in the 6 figures for sure.
So a 6-figure report that would turn into.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through the chair, $55,000 for potted plants, $55 million reduction for 5% on top of the 40 already. I can't support point 2 because I don't think it's I don't think it's a real ask. I can't imagine pulling $100 million out of the budget and spending $100,000 on a report to tell me that I would crash the city and reduce all the services. We've gotten, with this council, a year's worth of reports on the state of our assets and the lack of investment in them. To reduce that this much on top, I just can't even imagine. And I can't imagine asking that kind of work out of administration either when we're trying to have budget reductions. When we write motions and say our words and they get passed, that's someone who has to do that work afterwards, and I think we should always be respectful of that in this horseshoe and remember that that work costs money, that money goes on to budgets, and we have to pay for those budgets with mill rates. So just to comment on what's going on so far today. Next up, I'd like to ask about building and development. I note that they talked about a large increase in permits, and I know that permits are cost recovery. I was just wondering, if we're doing the extra work, we got the extra manpower, have we checked out the price of our permits to make sure we're recovering enough money from developing those permits? Through the chair.
Ms. Bryden?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Through the chair, we have considered our building permit fees and charges. We are undergoing a review of our reserve, the Planning and Sustainability Reserve, which is what funds the area. And part of that will probably determine that our building permits and development permits will likely need to go up. We know we're like probably the lowest rates in the country with the fastest turnaround times. So yeah, we are doing that work.
Will that work be completed for this budget and corrected to be part of the solution for our needed efficiencies?
Thank you through the chair. No, it won't be completed for this work, for this budget. There's a lot of dialogue that has to go on within community when we talk about those permits. And also, again, as I said, the building standards area is funded through the Planning and Sustainability Reserve, which is where those fees go into. So it's not directly funded through the mill rate.
Appreciate that. A budgeted position for regional engagement. I love the regional engagement, but I'm just wondering, is this like a co-budgeted position through the province or something to offset our costs, being that I think we're kind of through the chair?
Thank you through the chair. That's, yeah, Darren.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Through the chair. At this moment, no. So that's just a pain point we have right now through the land and development area, where we are being asked to, coordinate some major projects at times, and we feel like it would best serve the citizens to have that. And maybe I'll get Mr. Jedlick to comment a little bit more on what he sees for that position.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor, the regional position, the function of it would be to serve as a single point of contact for any of our neighboring municipalities or towns, First Nations, so that whenever they have a question or a need of the city, they have a single point of contact into the city. And then from there, we can refer to whichever the relevant department is.
Really appreciate that position and know how important that is for regional economic development. So, yeah, I guess that's needed. Appreciate the First Amendment put up. I look forward to that information. I think it's warranted. Through the chair, if it's in line, I realize that I talked a little bit directly about amendment Councillor Rasevich made, and he might have a comment to make. Am I allowed to ask him if he had anything?
Please, yeah, you can.
Please, I didn't want to be rude to him, and I saw him, so I wouldn't mind.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Rasevich.
I just want to hear back from your...
Yeah, I heard you, you seem to have to say something, so.
I'm going to be honest, like, when you, Mr. Anderson, when you said to do something like that, it's going to cost 6 figures, $100,000 to get a report back? Is that...
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Through the chair, so yeah, that would be a cost estimate of our internal time being spent on this versus being spent on other priority projects. So, and just to clarify while I have the floor, it would be a total reduction of 61.1 million roughly from our current forecast, or roughly 16 million from 2025's operating budget, and a total of $61 million worth of cuts we'd have to go find.
So what's, I guess, because it related to your question.
You can comment right now, but it's my turn for questions.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, was that because you just want to make sure if you had a comment with respect to that, Councillor Rasevich specifically?
Okay, that's kind of $100,000. I'm like, wow. I guess that's my kind of my comment, and I'm like, But I guess like say, so how much? All these different things we're asking you to do, the total of all those got to be over $100,000.
So, well, he said it was approximately $61 million in cuts, right? If that 18.5%. So, that's the ratio you're talking about, right? Is $100,000 work, and then those cuts.
I was being polite, but I want to talk too.
I guess what I'm wondering is if that one little line number 2 is worth $100,000, how about all the other little all the questions we've been asking here over the last
I
three
can
times.
answer that if I can go back to
ahead.
speaking.
Yeah.
So point
Go ahead.
number one is the job that administration does every year. They had a 13.5% forecast. That forecast is usually behind closed doors for the next 3 months. They sharpen their pencils, they do their job, they start eliminating, finding efficiencies, reorganizing, replanning positions, and they start bringing that mill rate down. They've been doing that for 100 years. Point number two, well, we've all talked about the zeros and how they affected our job as councillors today by having zero budgets a decade and a half ago. To have a -5 budget and a 55 million reduction speaks to how much work they would have to do, because that's not business as usual. That's rewriting the whole playbook. That is changing the whole face of a city. That is rethinking if we actually offer services in many, many categories, or maybe we just start selling off assets to reach it. That's not business as usual. That's why that's so expensive, because it would be a re-engineering of the whole composition of what we know. So that's why I can't support point two. It's I want stability. I want the same childhood for children now that I had in the future, and I don't want to pull everything out from under them because I want to be cheap. I want to provide a great quality of life, just like the city of Regina and my parents in the province of Saskatchewan provided for me. And I don't want to throw it away over 10 cents or a headline. So that's where my heart comes from. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the acting city manager. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to emphasize to members, admin is not here to debate whether this motion is good, bad, or indifferent. We will do whatever council directs us to do. What I do want to emphasize, though, is particularly with number two, there is a significant amount of work done, because I think actually Councillor Mancinelli articulated it very well. What I do want to impress upon members of council, as well as the public, is we can do that work. The results are going to be stark. So I don't want anybody to think that we can tinker around and find money hither and there without impacting particular areas or many services without significant repercussions or implications. So I just want to be clear, we're not here to debate. I just want to alert everybody that when that report comes, should number two pass, I don't want anybody to smack their head and go, oh, wow, who asked for that or where'd that come from? It will be stark.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Sickley's. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Our homeowners are facing stark decisions too. Let's not forget that. And I'm here to represent them. That's all I'll say about that. Some questions. Tourism, no particular order. You talked about, Ms. Johnson, you talked about spending compared to other cities. Or I think you used a three-letter, I can't remember what you called it. Like there's a three-letter acronym. ECT stands for?
Go ahead, Ms. Johnson.
Through the chair, it's events, conventions, and trade show budget.
Right, and you're comparing those to other cities.
No, sorry, through the chair, I was comparing the overall size of our destination marketing organization, known as Tourism Regina, compared to destination marketing organizations in other cities.
In other cities, okay. My question is, do we have, and this is so hard, I think we've asked this before, but can we compare results of tourism with other cities?
Thank you. Through the chair, in some ways we can. Through Destination Canada, they track results through an online system of overall visitor spend in a number of cities. And so we track our overall spend. That is one of the key KPIs that we report on. But we have been tracking our visitor spend over our previous year, because we are trying to increase our visitor spend here and not so worried about what visitor spend is in other cities. We have tracked that to be up over last year already for the first half of 2025 over the first half of 2024, and 2024 was up over pre-pandemic levels for the first time in Regina. So we're quite proud of that.
May I ask your opinion on whether it's the timing is good now versus, let's say, a year from now or 2 years from now to do some comparables? And can those be shared with the public?
Thank you. Through the chair, I think it would be fine to do some comparables. We could certainly do some. Depending on what we find, I don't know what story it will tell necessarily, unless we do comparables trending, just comparing our trend line versus other cities' trend lines, and whether, you know, we're showing growth whereas they might not be, or vice versa. May I ask, like, what are you hoping to track or learn from this?
I want to defend your department to my ratepayers. Not because I'm being challenged on it today, just because I think in every department I want to defend what we're doing. I also want to defend my ratepayers and wanting to pay less tax or to hold the line. And if we can show them in a quick one-pager, this is what we're doing in this department versus this department, and these are the benefits that are coming in, I think simplifying it and putting out clear stats, if they're available, would be very helpful to me and maybe to my colleagues.
Thank you. Through the chair, love that approach and agree. We did do, and I will say the slight difference here is we didn't compare to other cities. We compared to our own performance. And so we did do essentially a one-pager. It was a few pages. We did an annual report in 2024 showing overall visitor spend and the growth in overall visitor spend in Regina. We tracked flights and how many passengers have used flights out of Regina. We tracked hotel occupancy, which is a key one in terms of supporting small businesses, supporting hotels. We showed growth in that as well. And then we tracked our own internal stats, visits to the website, social media stats, that sort of thing. All of that's available online. We will do another annual report again at the end of 2025. And as mentioned, we're showing all of those stats increasing again year over year. So I think that does tell a really positive story to your ratepayers, to the citizens of Regina, that, you know, seeing an overall increase in visitor spend here means that there's more people spending money in small businesses here. There's more people staying in hotels here, and showing that year over year is a positive economic story for the entire city.
That's excellent, because I want to counter the narrative that we're a flyover city. Is that information that you say on our website, is that in a multi-page PDF, or is it in a one-pager statistic that I can share on my social media?
Thank you. Through the chair, I can send you the website link afterwards. It's a multi-page, essentially PDF that's glossy and fancy looking, because we work in tourism and marketing.
Yeah.
But it is shareable, and you can provide a link through social media.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Next question is for regarding Indigenous services. I have asked for an amendment when they're finished talking. I think they have it.
Sorry, who is that for?
This is the Indigenous services one.
Okay, Miss Lowe.
It's an amendment that we were talking about during the break that I'd like to put forward. Oh, there it is. Yeah, number 3. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just get you to read it out for the public.
The amendment is to investigate federal funding streams that may be available to potentially fund the Indigenous Relations Department at the City of Regina.
Okay, I'll just check with administration. Ms. Lowe?
I certainly think this is worth investigating. Yeah, I think we could check into that for sure. I'm not sure what's out there, but worth it to look into.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sickleys, you're good on that one?
Yeah,
you can keep going.
Yeah, just to save time, I can talk afterwards with you on why I brought that forward. And then an overall one, and I've spoken to our CFO about this before, and I just maybe, should we formalize this? I'd like to put an amendment in that we please have a one-page summary of expenses versus revenues in a clear graphical format designed for public consumption. So whether it's 2 pie charts that show here's all the money that comes in and here's all the money that goes out, you know, in detail by department, with some ancillary statistics that you think are useful to the ratepayers. But I'd like to see that in a one-page format. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Through the chair, yeah, we're actively working on that. We did provide an Appendix A to the first meeting of these series of 5s, sort of that snapshot look in, I don't know what the charts are called, but we're definitely still working on visualizations and how we can best portray that story to the public. So I'm perfectly fine with the amendment.
I think Ms. Ackerman is working on the wording.
It's like telling us how to do our job. I don't know why we were worrying about doing it.
Acting City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I will defer to the clerk as to whether this is necessary or not. We're prepared to do it.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah, so.
Okay, I'll ask the Acting City Clerk, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, if administration agrees to undertake, that they're undertaking this work and doesn't feel that the motion is necessary, then that's fine. It can be withdrawn as long as the councillor is comfortable with that.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about the costs of doing this, and I don't want the ratepayers to be lost in this. And I know we're not putting out a boo-hoo story of how hard it is for us to do our job. But there are boo-hoo stories from our residents, some of which are having a tough time swallowing what could be a mill rate increase that is bigger than the numbers that we're looking at adjusting to. So let's try and be balanced with that. Having said that, you know, number 2, if that costs $100,000, what does number 1 cost to do?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Through the chair, so again, that's a significant amount of work for us. I will echo Councillor Mancinelli's comments in that it's typically something that administration tackles every year during budget. We're just doing it in public this time.
Yeah.
There is a fundamental difference on point number 2. We wouldn't typically look at something like that.
Yeah.
But the cost, like all requests from council, are significant. These aren't easy things. We're a very complex organization that runs 65 different services, so it's costly to do this work.
And that's important, I think, to say out loud, because some of us in the public might think you just press a button and say, well, let's go 3.1, what does that look like? And it just spits out all the answers. We don't have that kind of system.
Through the chair, so there would be no system that would just automatically find it. There's things like we have to pay back our debt. Like you can't just erase that. Right? There's core competencies. We have to do an annual report. We have to do a budget. There's regulatory things. You can't just make cuts across the board. It doesn't work like that. We're too complex. So it takes a lot of grind internally to find these types of savings.
Okay. And I guess I don't want to be the one that says this, but I'll be the sacrificial lamb here. A lot of residents are asking us, you know, how many people are we going to cut? What programs are we going to stop? What projects are we going to delay or cancel? And I don't have an answer for them because, you know, I do share some of Councillor Mancinelli's feelings on this, but we can't bankrupt ourselves either. So somewhere we need to find a balance, and these are the kinds of reasons why we're asking for these, and I think the public needs to know that.
Great.
Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Radens. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report. I just have a comment in reference to point number 2. And I know, we're not debating, but my point is our city has grown significantly, and we have put efficiency as our goal as a council. We're battling against a few things, such as inflation, past councils that did not want to increase mill rates, and that's for 10 to 12 years or more. We are behind in meeting our operations and services. It was difficult in the spring for us to find $1.5 million. So we're now going to be asking to find $61 million. Fair, good question. I just am also concerned with the time and energy that we're going to put in to finding said dollars. When we already know we're behind. I just kind of feel like I look forward to the report, though I do have a prediction that it will be a daunting one, and how that is affected on the street level. And I mean, snow removal, we had a rough winter last year with snow, and so I feel like, well, maybe we just don't remove snow. So the needs of the city by our residents is crucial. How we do that is also incredibly important. I have huge concerns for the ask on point number 2, and I, equally with Councillor Mancinelli, might not be supporting that. So tourism, I do have concerns regarding the $800,000 increase, though your explanation as to why that was made sense to me. Indigenous relations. I'm looking at page number 18 in the report that indicates that you had 5 out of scope in 2024. And so we're looking at 3 and 3 for the next couple years, and you went up to 8 in 2025. So I'm kind of a little bit concerned about those numbers, as well as in scope you had 14 and down to 1.33. I don't know how you come up with that, but I did recall that in the report you did say, where's Chelsea? Sorry, there you are. The positions were redistributed, is that correct?
Ms. Lowe, go ahead.
Yeah, this is correct. So right now, currently, we have 4, hold on, let me pull up my notes. I think we have, so there's the director, the senior advisor, and the HR Indigenous advisor is the 3 out-of-scope staff. Then we have 2 positions that we've realigned from community well-being to be in Indigenous relations. And I currently have a part-time admin person who just started to help me out with all of this. And so that report is, because of all the changes and everything that was being made, we're trying to get it all sorted out. So a lot of those positions, the changes, were from housing and community well-being that were reallocated to a different department, but the report doesn't fully reflect all of the changes that have happened.
Okay, so with this, do you feel that you're going to meet the requirements in terms of, I mean, I don't want to fringe on operations, of course, but the question is, will you have the capacity to do what is required in those roles?
Yeah, I think this is a good question. We just got the budget this year for Indigenous relations. We got it allocated to us in May. So I haven't really had a full year or a full complement of staff to even really determine the scope at which we can fully operate. I have really big plans. I think that this is enough for now and for the next budget period. And then that gives us time to evaluate and make sure we can deliver on everything we say we're going to do.
Okay, so I guess the tests will be in the results. All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Oh. Hello. Thank you for this report. Where do I start? Let's start with planning. So I did want to ask a little bit about some planning questions and how it's done. First of all, I also want to note that there's been some really good improvements with building permits around the city, and I wanted to acknowledge that out loud and say that I've been hearing really good things about permitting. So for planning efficiencies, I did want to ask, I do have some questions here for referral. An overview of like how our existing planning project prioritizing and matrix and project initiation, like what gets chosen to be planned and how's that initiated, and that prioritization. And then I would also, I did write information on the project initiation and a comparison of how many projects are designed but not realized. So there are a lot of projects which may be talked about inside, but the reality is there are lots of planning projects, but we don't necessarily want to be paying for planning that doesn't actually happen. We want to be paying for planning that actually becomes real projects. And how much was spent on internal and external resources in the past, I don't know, timeline. And I guess I would ask administration what the appropriate timeline would be for that. Like, would we be able to know between 5 and 10 years on projects not realized? Like, how much money have we spent on planning for projects that didn't happen on an internal and external resources? Can I ask administration what the proper timeline that would be?
Yep, absolutely. Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Just seeking some clarity. Are you talking about the city's capital planning of projects?
Well,
so are infrastructure planning and street renewal projects and that type of work?
Well, it would be the planning department, because that's what we're talking about, and capital planning is a different day, I believe.
But, yes, but the planning, so I'll let you finish. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's just, and I guess it doesn't, whatever infrastructure, where it fits in the puzzle. I guess the question is how much do we spend on projects that are not realized? Like, how much time do we spend designing things that don't actually come to fruition? And how do we just decide what we are planning and what are we designing?
Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So most of our infrastructure, or all of our infrastructure, is discussed in our master plans. So we have several master plans: transportation, water, wastewater, parks master plans, those types of things. And then, as I mentioned, in more recent years, we've taken a very much more holistic approach and integrated approach to our planning of projects. I don't know that we could speak back historically to how many, streets were designed and then not built per se, but I believe that we could speak about our process that we go through in terms of how we approach our projects and our planning of those projects. It may be more relevant to the capital budget conversation, although I would refer to Ms. Seguin to speak on that process if she thinks it's appropriate.
Oops, sorry. Seguin, go ahead.
Through the mayor. Ms. Bryden's correct. Like, this is probably more appropriate for the capital conversation. I think what I can add is I honestly can't think of many projects that we put resources in and not delivered. It's more maybe a matter of projects are deferred, like lots of times due to financial reasons until the budget's available for construction, or sometimes until the design is complete. But I can't think of any projects in recent history where we did the planning and then didn't deliver on an infrastructure project.
That's great to hear. It's just that I guess planning and capital are sort of interconnected, because you kind of start in planning and then end up in capital projects. Do you want to talk about that process?
Through the chair. So we do, you're correct. You know, currently underway with our growth plan. So we have our official community plan. We're reviewing our growth plan currently. The growth plan, once we have determined where the city's going to grow in terms of greenfield development, that will feed into some changes that we will look at making within our water and wastewater master plans. So it all does tie in together, and it does start with our long-range planning, if you will. Yeah.
So that is why these questions are under planning, because this is where we start. And how do we start the initiation of the project is what I'm interested in, because as you start, things start to fall away.
So thank you, through the chair. So we start that work. So more recently, we just finished our water and wastewater serviceability study. That serviceability study feeds into the work we're doing on our growth plan. And that also helps to outline the capital projects that will be required for the city to grow, whether it's greenfield growth or intensification. Again, I'm not sure that we've had too many projects that we've planned for that have, or designed that we have not completed. But again, these are capital infrastructure projects that we're talking about. Maybe more relevant during that conversation.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show my questions for planning and development, and then maybe I can ask admin what is more appropriate for capital planning versus planning. Would that work?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll put that on the screen there. And Councillor Turnbull, maybe get you to read it out just for the record.
Okay, so my questions are a high-level overview of the existing project planning prioritization matrix, including project initiation, information on project initiation, and a comparison of how many projects are designed but not realized, how much was spent on internal and external resources in the past blank years, depending on what admin recommends, on projects not realized, the procurement methodology for consultants, a cost analysis of projects that are functional and purpose-built versus decorative, average cost for planning / consultant fees with the breakdown of internal versus external costs, and average percentage of project costs for planning consultant fees. So those are kind of my questions if you want to speak to them or recommend whether they're capital planning or planning questions.
Okay, and I'll ask admin, who would you like to speak to that?
If I may get some clarification from you about what your gain, like why you're looking for this information.
Just looking at the way we do things and the planning efficiencies from when a project gets initiated to the project ending. And that involves consultant fees, and with any organization, you can expect projects to start to get planned and not actually get built because of whatever decisions. But the percentage of how much projects are being designed and not coming to fruition is where we can look at our prioritization to make sure that we are actually being efficient with where we're putting our planning resources.
Thank you, through the chair. I would say pretty much all of these items except for item D, which I would refer to Mr. Anderson about, but would be capital pieces of work. So our capital planning matrix, again, the project initiation and those pieces would all be in relation to capital works.
Capital meeting if we would like to. If administration feels this is more appropriate for capital, I can defer.
Okay, and I'll just get clarification from Mr. Anderson on point D, because it was highlighted that we're not sure yet.
So through the chair, yeah, I mean, we would have documentation on our procurement processes we could share.
So would you say this should also go to the capital meeting, or is this something that you would be okay being a part of this?
I'm, through the chair, maybe I'm not 100% sure on what this is all asking for.
I can ask the acting city clerk to speak to it. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair, just given my understanding that this is linked to the planning capital information that Councillor Turnbull is looking for, it would be my recommendation that this be brought forward in a fulsome referral motion during the capital budget discussion.
Okay, Councillor Turnbull, is that good for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now I want to ask about the land development reserve and its health and what we can use it for, and I believe it's sort of to our discretion. Is that correct?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Through the chairs, yeah, the Land Development Reserve has approved guardrails, I'll call it, through council. So I don't know the comment that it's at our discretion. We can obviously use those funds when we earn them to invest in projects like Taylor Field and the Yards, and we come back with a plan that's approved by council on an annual basis.
Is our land development reserve health right now? Like how's that sitting?
Through the chair, so yeah, no concerns around the health of the land development reserve right now. We have healthy revenues coming in through our great work at the towns. We do have some other projects as was listed in the land use project or the land use policy that came forward. No concerns right now. We continually are updating our cash flows, but yeah, no concerns around that.
Okay, so we've had a lot of revenue come in because earlier this year there was a little bit of concern after Costco and everything went through.
Through the chair, yeah, we're constantly getting revenue as we sell lots. So, and other parcels of land that we hold throughout the city. So this, again, just a reminder, this is an active land development organization and real estate. So we're constantly having money come in and out of that reserve.
And for land development, we've approved things like the lift station and the water network, and those would be to develop our lands. Would that be something suitable that the land development reserve could help with as that is developing our city?
Through the chair, so those two specific items are not tagged for the land development reserve. Those are outside. I would say we could consider that if we had a significant amount of funds in that. But the water network expansion, it was a massive project that would fall outside of the land development reserve and the land development operations.
Work, which is I think just above 2 mill rate increase, would be to develop our lands for water to get our city to the 300,000 mark. Is that correct?
Through the chair, so the water network expansion was a large project. I think it totaled, the budget was 180 million. Yeah, getting the thumbs up from my colleague. And it was to provide services to the city, right, where we were starting to reach capacity. I think it was built out for 300,000. But again, our land development company isn't doing the land development for the entire city. We have lots of corporate partners that do land development, and you've heard from several of them at different council meetings. We're just one of those land development partners. So when we're talking about the land development reserve, we're just talking about a single land development company that the city happens to own. The water network expansion was for the benefit of all land developers, not just the city of Regina's land development company.
Okay, and so we have about a 2.25 mill rate increase to support the water network?
Through the chair, so that's correct. That's to pay back the debt. So we debt funded that project. And so the debt that we acquired this year was towards that and towards unfunded development charges from the past. And that mill rate increase is around 2.2, 2.3% and not.
And that same dollar amount is pretty much what we incentivized Costco with as well, but that is not coming out as a mill rate increase?
So through the chair, yeah, so the Costco payment, which is not due immediately, will be paid for out of the land development reserve. So, and then repaid back into the land development reserve as we collect taxes in the Westera area, commercial area.
So the water network is a 2.25 mill rate increase, and the Costco is just coming straight out of the land development reserve. But could we use the land development reserve to also pay for that water network increase, that 2.2?
So through the chair, that would be 1 year of debt payment. We have to pay back the water network expansion loan over 30 years. So they're not, like, the water network expansion was 185 million. The Costco incentive was 7 million. So the 7 million, and that's going to be paid over several years. That's not a 1 year payment. That will be paid over several years as the Costco gets paid out. The equivalent payment down on the debt is just 1 year's debt payment out of 30 years. So they're not equivalent, Councillor, in size.
Okay, and then I did want to ask about, some cities have internal development departments like Saskatoon. We don't. And that's to avoid contractor fees, to maintain and update without big outsourcing contracts, integration across developments, and control and planning. And it would keep us aligned with community goals, public interests, and reduce private profit motives. So I was wondering, have we put any thought into a City of Regina internal development department for those reasons, but also for some efficiencies?
Who'd like to take that one? Ms. Braden, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll start, and then Mr. Anderson can add. But essentially, we do have an internal land development department, which is the one Mr. Jedlick leads, that leads the development of city-owned land. In other cities, they may have more city-owned land. So the city of Saskatoon is a substantial landholder, and they have a land development internal land development division. We have, the City of Regina owns less land. So we have more external developers such as Dream, Forrester, Harvard, others that own land, and so they go through their development process, similar the way Mr. Jedlick leads the city-owned lands through a development process. So Mr. Anderson, I'm not sure if you have anything further to add, but they lead land development for city-owned land.
Through the chair, yeah, I echo my colleague's comments. The only difference between us and Saskatoon is scale. So Saskatoon does more of their own land development, whereas we rely on more of the market to take care of that for us.
Just for clarity, you're saying we rely on the market, so we don't have an internal land development.
So through the chair, to be clear, we have a land development organization with which we run through the Land and Development Reserve. That organization, led by Mr. Jedlick, purchases and plans out and invests in the infrastructure under that land. We then sell that land to developers to go above it. So the towns is a good example. We developed the town's neighborhood. The same as Dream is developing Coopertown. We're the same type of organization. We do that work. I'm just saying that in Saskatoon, when you reference Saskatoon, Saskatoon is doing more internal development work and relying less on companies like Dream. But where we have the same as them. We develop land for sale, for profit.
Hire consultants to do that work for us. It's not internal.
So through the chair, we have a few employees in the Land and Development Reserve as outlined in the report, and then we outsource a lot of the work. I can't comment exactly on what Saskatoon does and if they have their own people, and maybe Mr. Jedlick has more clarity around what Saskatoon does.
Go ahead, Mr. Jedlick.
Through the mayor, so we do hire third-party development manager to manage development in the towns, and that was through direction from council. whereas the city of Saskatoon will have more staff in-house. You know, we've looked at different delivery models, and you know, where we've landed is that this is an appropriate delivery model for the land holdings that we have. Land development is very cyclical in its nature, and so there's, you know, years where the market takes off and you're doing a lot of work, and then there's years where it gets very, very slow and very, very lean. And so to hold a lot of staff, permanent staff, on salary during lean years is you know, quite a financial burden. And so we found that by outsourcing the development management component of it to a third party, that they're better able to manage those, you know, peaks and valleys in the staffing. As well, it works for just the types of projects that we had. If we had greater land holdings and more projects on the go, I think there could be an argument for having a model more like Saskatoon, but for the size of our activity, you know, we found this is most appropriate.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull up my question for that because I'm gonna run out of time. I also have a question for tourism, so I'll pull that up as well because I might run out of time.
Yeah, I'd say you have about 30 seconds, so I'd probably put both those up for sure, yeah. Yeah. Hold on one sec. Okay, Councillor Trimble, I'll get you to read those two questions out, please.
Tourism KPIs, which KPIs for measuring the success of tourism events with the breakdown of economic development Regina's methodology to analyze predictions and post-event assessments of financial and economic impact of an event. And the plan, and then internal land development department efficiencies, a high-level overview of short and long-term financial impacts for creation and sustainable of a potential internal development department, including pros, cons, risks, and other financial factors as they relate to our strategic priorities.
Well done. I'll maybe look to admin to comment just to make sure that's clear as we've been doing. So Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Through the chair, yeah, for point number 4 here, I would just, we already do have, so to say the impacts of creation of an internal development department, we already have that. I guess, are you asking whether or not we should hire permanent staff to be the operational managers of our land development projects? Because we already have staff and an organization.
We're adding the word expanded.
If we change it to expanded, does that make sense? Just
through the chair, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll go to Ms. Johnson on the tourism one there.
Thank you. Through the chair, we currently use Tourism Saskatchewan's methodology to do economic impacts. The reason we use Tourism Saskatchewan is because they are also using that same data and same estimations to go forward for funding on their end. So I think it's important that we continue to remain consistent in terms of using the same economic impact generator. I'm not sure what this is asking for. Like, we already do that. We already use their system. We already input numbers, and we already get an economic impact generated.
Okay. Councillor Turnbull, given what you heard, I'll get you to reply.
We can add that Saskatchewan Tourism and EDR.
Okay, go back to Ms. Johnson. I think she had just a clarification for you, Councillor Turnbull, around the difference between what you're doing currently and what this is asking for. So go ahead, Councillor Turnbull. You can explain it. It's fine.
I just think that EDR and Regina should coordinate, since we're in the same, as a municipal corp, and then Tourism Saskatchewan, as you said, makes sense. So I don't know if it's an and or, but I think we should all sort of be on the same page in this.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm not familiar with EDR's economic impact assessment, and I think that, so currently they don't provide funding for tourism events, and so they're not running all of the events through any sort of economic impact tool. We're all using Tourism Saskatchewan, I believe, as the lead to use their tool.
Okay. Well, I saw Councillor Fro and Councillor Mancinelli. Do you each have something to say with respect to this? I can give you. No. Okay. Councillor Mancinelli, was it something to do with this on the floor here? Okay, go ahead.
I would like maybe the city clerk to comment on the history of tourism. I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel with the movements between EDR and tourism, and I think that he has the knowledge to maybe comment on some history that would be helpful.
Okay, I'll get the acting city manager to speak to that.
Thank you, Councillor Mancinelli, for the question. Tourism has bounced around. It was with EDR, it went to Rio, and now it's with us. And so I think that, as Ms. Johnson said, we relate to the KPIs that are provided or outlined by Tourism Sask, because tourism was divorced from economic development 2 or 3 years ago. And so they don't typically, as Ms. Johnson said, run their methodology through us, because it wasn't a good fit back then, and I'm not sure, with all due respect, what it would mean for them now. So we would tend to rely on what Tourism Sask is doing.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, go ahead. Actually, can I'll just maybe ask a question? If there was a rework of the way we analyze this, I guess my first question would be, whether we do or not, would it be feasible before budget time? Because that's the referral. So I maybe just want to clarify that, because it'd be I just want to clarify the timing as well, but go ahead with your commentary.
Thank you, through the chair. So in terms of that, we would be reliant on Tourism Saskatchewan, and I think that they have an economic model that works very well, so I don't know that they would be open to changing that. But I'm not entirely sure that that's what this is asking for. Maybe the other thing I would offer is we do have an annual report coming forward to council about the success of the events, conventions, and trade show fund. That's an annual requirement, and so perhaps some of the results that will be in that report later this year, towards the end of November, I think, would articulate some of this. But I'm still not entirely clear if I'm answering what's being asked for.
Okay, Councillor Turnbull.
If we take out economic development, Regina, and then I'll just ask you, and I'll ask them when they come, that we can all be on the same page with how we're doing things.
No, sorry, through the chair, economic development Regina is not currently doing this that I'm aware of.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor, for a point of
clarification procedurally, and maybe out of order. Am I correct to understand that Councillor Turnbull is looking to understand the difference or the similarities between the economic impact models, which is an input-output model the EDR does to project the economic impact of sort of things that happen in our community, with the methodology of Tourism Saskatchewan, which I understand is different. Tourism Saskatchewan uses the same tool, by the way, as do all tourism entities across Canada, so it's pretty critical we maintain the same. So I think we could probably take that piece offline. These are statistical input-output models that Stats Canada avails to entities across the country to use, and I think we could ask offline the difference or the similarities between them, So when information comes, we understand how we're crunching these numbers and the outcomes. These are very imperfect models, but that is specific to tourism. EDRs is more specific to, say, an investment, a large capital investment project. I don't know if that helped or if I'm out of order, but I suspect we could take that offline through the chair.
So I'll go to Councillor Turnbull if that provided clarification for what you're asking for.
Sure, we can take it offline.
Okay, Councillor Flores, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just need to make a quick comment related to what was put forward earlier to this really large cut, because it really worries me for us to ever entertain something like this, because I feel like this type of cut is not necessarily savings, it's borrowing from the future, and at a much higher interest rate. And to me, it seems like we have seen how not keeping up with the cost of, let's say, infrastructure maintenance and things like that, in an effort to reduce a mill rate, how that has impacted us today. And we're having to make these really hard decisions as a byproduct of not doing what should have been done in the past. And I don't want to do that to future councillors and to residents in the future, because this will just come back and it'll be a cycle of having to do that over and over again if we can't catch up to the costs that need to be met to be able to provide the services that our residents deserve. So it's just something that is, to me, it's worrisome. And as we've heard, it's a large cost to even bring that report. But I feel like we've all have enough evidence from seeing where we're at today as a result of what's happened in the past. So there's that. And I have I guess a motion related to making data-driven decisions in the budget process, kind of sparked by that, because as residents see things are not being done, they send service requests to us, and that triggers different things from different departments. So I have a motion that asks administration to report back to council with an overview of the most common categories of resident service requests. And I'm not sure if the past year or the past however number of time would be the best time frame to give a wholesome overview of that picture, and an analysis of the impact of these requests on department workloads, with this information to be provided for budget. And the intent with that is to get a sense of, we get a ton of requests from residents, and that triggers work from different departments, and that costs us things. So if we're looking at reducing our budget, we need to see how that would impact, because I think it's important to people to see how much it gets asked of our staff and administration. And without getting that fulsome picture, sometimes folks might not have that sense of all the work that goes down at the city and all the things that perhaps many departments that are not so front-facing are doing every day.
Okay, I'm going to ask admin who would like to comment on that. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. Through the chair, Service Regina does track all of the service requests on a weekly and annual basis. I'm sure that we could compile it into the most common categories of resident service request forms. We currently do this. An analysis of the impact of these requests on departmental workloads. However, I will hand off to one of my colleagues because that will impact each of them differently.
Okay, go ahead, Acting City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I think at the outset, it might be a little thin in terms of the analysis that we can provide on the specific workloads in this time frame. But I do think that it will be important that what we can do is provide, as Ms. Johnson's already indicated, we have standard reporting on the frequency of calls, what relation to which department, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that will be very informative, particularly when you look at option 1 and potentially option 2 in terms of potential reductions. Because if for financial or numerical reasons we put out something to say eliminate or drastically reduce a particular service, and yet you look on the next page and it says that 43% of service calls are to that area, that gives you an understanding of how important it is to the public. And we're not here judging whether that is or not, right? We are here just to say that's going to be the impact. That's what the feelings are out there by at least 43% of the service calls. So I think at least the first part of number 5 is something that we can quickly do for the November supplemental report.
Through the chair, to the second part, is it possible, perhaps not a detailed, maybe the word analysis is not the appropriate one, but just to showcase how that it gets funneled to different departments and how that would impact, because I want to see, let's say we have roads, snow, other bylaw stuff, right? It would be interesting to see this percentage of calls impacts the amount of work that gets done by roads and that type of thing. Again, not in perhaps, I do understand what you mean by a wholesome analysis might be within this time frame not possible, but just to get a general overview of those impacts outside of just a report of the calls.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Yes, I think we'll take a look at and see what we can do, what we can provide. And it might be something as relatively straightforward as saying, if a particular number of calls come in or there's a flood event, we have to redirect X number of staff somewhere. That doesn't mean the existing work goes away. It either gets deferred or people are called in on overtime or whatever. So we'll take perhaps a 30,000-foot level view of it, but we'll provide something.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And through the chair, just the last thing I want to say, it's this is a lot of work that goes into every department, and I really appreciate it. And this process has highlighted something that many residents in the past have not been aware of, because usually what we see is the last number that is given to us. But just want to commend all staff that have put so much work into the reports they're bringing to us and kind of showcasing what the departments do and how that impacts our residents and our city, and how that contributes to making this a great growing city. So I appreciate it. That's all for me.
Councilor Flores, we have to get the time frame
Yes.
for the requests. What would be, did you have something, or did you want admin to recommend, or what was your?
I was thinking at least 2 years. It's just to get a more wholesome photo picture, but I'm not sure what would be the.
Ms. Johnson, do you have a?
Through the chair, you'd like, sorry, the last 2 years?
Yeah, 2 to 3 years.
I think that's feasible. We track this anyhow, and in fact, I was just looking on City Connect to see if I could find the most recent 2 years. We used to post them online on City Connect as well, so okay. I'm sure that we can commit to that.
Sure, so could we do 3 years?
Probably, I mean.
Okay, let's do 3 years then.
Okay. Okay, with that, that is everybody. So I know Dave has a point of clarification, or sorry, Councillor Frost, my apologies, has a point of clarification. Point of clarification. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair, just a point of clarification through the chair to admin. I'm trying to just determine how I'll vote on number 2, so just so I understand it. I mean, I certainly won't vote to gut our services and staff. I think we'll make Regina unlivable and create a long-term massive tax hike, but I do want to know, I do want the information. I'm not suggesting Councillor Rasevich wants that either, by the way. I think he wants the information. So I guess my question is, what would that report look like? Would it include things like how many staff, say how many police officers we'd have to cut, or like things like how much we'd reduce snow removal and mosquito control, or how much we'd slow down our building permit process? Like, would it be that type of information so we could have a healthy conversation? I guess the second part to my question, and that's all I have, because I am interested in the information. I think it will create actually a very healthy conversation, although I won't vote for that reduction. Is there like a time or approach that may not be as expensive or in depth, but would allow us to have a conversation about, listen, if we're going to reduce the budget by this much, these are truly the consequences. Maybe there's some benefits, but these are truly the consequences, short and long term, of a budget cut like that. I actually think it's a reasonably healthy conversation to have.
Okay, Acting City Manager, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. You're right, Councillor Fro. we will provide the information to facilitate the discussion and understanding of both council and the general public that the money that they get, or the money that is provided to the city to operate, where it goes and what it would mean to reduce. And so, as I said, I use the word stark. If we are looking at a magnitude of, say, $60 or so million, we're not going to find that by cutting pens and reducing travel. Doesn't mean those don't contribute, but they are such a small component of it that we are going to be putting out for your consideration with no, we're not putting the value on it in terms of whether it's important or not to you. We're just saying, if you want to reach this quantum of 60-some million dollars, there's going to be some big ticket items in there, and we will outline what those implications are. And as I said earlier, it will then, I think, quite appropriately lead to a review and analysis of what number 5 did in terms of the resident service requests. But this is to inform the public that this is what you get for the services that you're paying for.
And I think one last point for clarification, I think the term maybe $100,000 was thrown out in terms of cost to get the answer to number 2. I assume we're talking about what we would value staff time as opposed to external professional services. I don't want to discount the workload that may put on staff, but I do think this is healthy information to have. Is that assumption correct?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes, through the chair, that is correct. If we were to go external, I would imagine it would be even more than that, but it's a significant internal cost.
Okay, thank you for that. So as a referral motion, it'll be voted on. There is no debate on the items, so, and we will have point number 2 as a separate vote. Okay? So with that, I'm going to look to the clerk to say which are we voting on first, number 2 or the... Okay, so we're going to vote on number 2, point number 2 first, and then the balance of the items. So we'll be asking the clerk to start the vote on point number 2. So there's no debate on it, and you've put your motion forward. Is it a clarification point? Okay. Okay, this was, yeah, so we've already started the vote on it, and I think we've had a healthy addressing of what this looks like, so I think we need to get through the vote here. Okay, I think we can, let's talk after about procedure, and we'll take that offline. We're voting on point number 2. Councillor Turnbull, can I get your verbal vote, please?
For number 2
For number 2.
No.
Through you, Mayor, point number 2 is carried in a vote of 7-3, with the following members voting in favor as follows. Councillor Fro, Sickleys, Bezo, Burton. Actually, my apologies. The vote result was carried in a vote of 6-4, because Councillor Turnbull voted verbally against the motion. So the following members voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Fro, Sickleys, Bezo, Burton, Radins, and Rasevich. Those voting against were Councillors Mancinelli, Turnbull, Flores, and Mayor Bashinsky.
Thank you. So now we'll go to the vote on the balance of the items. Okay, and Councillor Turnbull, I'll get your verbal vote.
4, yes.
In favor?
In favor. That's the word.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, the motion is carried unanimously.
Okay. Thank you. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Councillor Sickley is always first for that, a seconder. Councillor Flores, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Thank you very much.